Hi, my name's Gabriel and I'm a guitar teacher at the NYC Guitar School, and I'm here today to talk to you about practicing with a metronome. So firstly, what is a metronome and why would you want to use it? So a metronome is a device that provides us with a steady pulse. Now a pulse is the natural rhythm that you hear within music. So if you listen to your favourite song and you tap your foot along, that's going to be the pulse of the tune. And we can really just zone in on that pulse and create an almost clinical, an environmental version of that. And that's what the metronome does for us. Now we can take it even further. We can use this as a way of developing the rhythmic vocabulary that we need when we play the guitar, and that's what I'm here to talk about today. So when we talk about pulse, a lot of the time you'll hear people mention the word rhythm, or maybe divisions or subdivisions. Maybe you even heard words like time signature or that kind of thing. All these things refer to is different ways of dividing up the way we count music. So I'm going to put the click on for a second just to give you an idea of how it's going to sound. Now as you hear, the click sounds different and then it changes. I've done this deliberately, so it's going 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's always going to be marking that first beat. With a lot of popular music, most of the time we're going to be counting this way. At a few occasions we'll maybe count up to 3 or maybe 6, but generally it's going to be divided up by 4. This is what we call the time signature, and it's just the way that we're counting the music. In this instance, I don't know if you can see this here, but it says 4 over 4. All that means is that there's going to be 4 beats to a bar being just the way we're going to be dividing up this rhythm. Now the next thing that we can talk about is subdivision. So a division is just the way we're dividing each measure of music, each bar. So in this case, it's being divided into 4, so we're going to be counting 1, 2, 3, 4. But we don't have to stop there. We can start dividing these beats up. So each beat can be subdivided even further. So if we're counting into 4, if we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, we can subdivide this further. So the first subdivision we can look at is the idea of taking that and cutting it in half. So it's going to sound like this. We're going to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... That's the first subdivision. We call that an eighth note in music theory, mainly because I mentioned that this is 4/4 time. So each beat is going to be 1 of the 4, or a quarter note. If we divide that in half, if you take a quarter and you cut that in half, you're going to get an eighth, or an eighth note. Okay, so that's the first division we're going to look at today. The next division we're going to look at today is going to be an eighth note triplet. Now what that means is we're going to take this click, I'm going to divide that click into 3 now. So it's going to sound like this. We're going to go triplet, 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 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that's what we call a triplet. That's just the next division that we're going to be looking at. Now finally, we're going to take this division and we're going to divide it even further, and we're going to divide it by 4. So if you take 1/4 and you divide it by 4, you're going to get a 16th. So it's going to be a 16th note, and that's going to sound like this. 2, 3, 4. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a... So that's just the way that I'm going to be counting these whilst we talk. So the metronomes I'm using in this tutorial, the one on my iPad is called Pro Metronome, and it's a free app that you can find in the App Store. But if you don't have access to that, you can go on Google, and if you just search metronome, you'll be able to find a metronome that you can play along with that will appear straight in the Google window. Okay, so for all of the exercises we're going to be doing today, we're going to be using a G major scale. Now we're going to play the G major scale in the first position, starting from the 3rd fret of the 6th string. I'm going to put a diagram on the screen now so you can see exactly what it's going to look like. And when we play it, we're going to work up and down through the scale. You'll notice that there is a 2nd fret on the 6th string. I like to use that as a pivot point just when I'm looping back around in a repeat. So if we start on the 3rd fret of the 6th string, and it will sound like this. We're going to apply all the rhythms to this scale. Okay, so the first exercise we're going to be doing, we're going to be placing the metronome on. And before we play through the scale, we just want to get comfortable at dividing the beat up. So the first thing we're going to do is we'll start with the quarter notes. So we're just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm using all downstrokes for this. Okay, now I'm going to play the scale. Okay, cool. Now we're going to take it a step further and we're going to play our first subdivision. So we're going to take this beat and we're going to split it in half to give us an 8th note. And we'll start again just playing this G note here. And it's going to sound like this. 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now if you notice, if you look at my picking hand, I'm alternating. I'm going down, up, 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 down, up. I find that helps me keep the pulse a little better. Okay. Full scale now. Now I'm bringing in that 2nd fret on the low 6th string just because it allows me to get back to the downbeat for the next repeat. Okay, so we're going to take this a step further now and we're going to include a triplet. So the triplet's a little bit funny with the picking. We can look at it a couple of ways. You can just use strict alternate picking, which is the way I like to do it, but you can also use a syncopated motion. You could go down, up, down, down, up, down, down. Some people like that, especially if you're playing acoustic guitar and trying to play folk music. It gives you that really cool jig rhythm sound. So if you were going, it has that lilting forward motion. But what I'm looking for with this, I'm trying to keep everything super even. So I'm just going to use strict alternate picking. So again, we'll start with the root, the scale, and the G. We're going to go triple, triple. Okay, now the full scale. reach and beat 1 again with the root of the scale. Awesome, okay, so we've only got one last division that we're going to be looking at, and that's going to be dividing that up into 16th notes. That's 4 notes per click. It's quite fast, so I like to use my alternate picking. It just helps me keep an even rhythm with it. We'll start again with the root note. It's going to sound like this. We're going to have 2, 3, 4, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E. Okay, now the full scale. Awesome. So that's all of the subdivisions that we can apply to a G major scale. And that's a really great way to practice your scales, and it's a really great way to work on building speed. So a lot of the time I see people like racing with a metronome or practicing at one tempo and then just cranking the speed up. And now I've always felt the best way to get a uniform rhythm development is to work on using subdivisions rather than increasing the speed of the metronome until you reach a point where you're uncomfortable with the upper subdivisions, and then we go back down and we crank the metronome up at that point. And what I find is that just gives you more of an awareness of the different like gears. I think of it like if you think about a stick shift car, you can think of each division as like a different gear of your car, and different speed. So if we're talking about a quarter note, that's going to be our first gear, we're just easing up into it. But on the other end of it, we're going to have the 16th notes are like, you know, 6th gear where you're going nice and fast. But at the same time, you want to know where the transitional points are going to be. So if you think about the way you progress through gears in a car, you can think of the same thing with your rhythm. So you can be like. Progressing through the speed that way, dividing the beat up in different ways. So there I went through every division up to 16th notes and brought my way back down. And that's a really great way of practicing this. And this is what I want to talk about next. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to combine these rhythms. It's really hard, so this is a way of just kind of taking it slowly and practice small little chunks. Don't try and do all 4 rhythms right at once, because that's difficult. So the way I do this, take one measure at a time, and we're going to play the different rhythms. So the first one we're going to do is we're going to play one measure of quarter notes, one measure of 8th notes, and we're going to use those 2 measures as a way of playing through the scale. So we're starting with the quarter notes. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to do 8th notes. Quarter notes. 8th notes. Quarter notes. 8th notes. We'll end now. So that's the first one you can practice. The next thing we can do is we can take this concept and apply it to the 8th notes and the 8th notes triplets. Personally for me, this is one of the harder rhythms to jump between, just purely because you have to divide non-evenly, going from 2 and 2 over 1, 2 notes in one space, to 3 notes in one. So I kind of pre-prepare, and I'll see if I can show you as I go along. So I'm going to start with the 8th notes. We're going to go 1 and 2 and 3. Now to triplets. Da, 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 da. And you see there I messed up myself. So I'm going to try it again. So 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... I messed up the first time. So let's try another one. We're going to go from triplet 8th notes into 16th notes. Again, this is tricky. Take it slowly. We're doing everything at 60 beats a minute, but you don't necessarily have to do it at that speed. Okay, so let's give this a go. 2, 3, 4. That's hard. Okay, now what we can do is we can do the other subdivisions into the next one. So for example, we're going to go quarter notes into 8th note triplets. 2, 3, 4. Just like that. Now we'll do 8th notes into 16th notes. Okay, and the last thing we can do is we can work on going through every single gear. So we'll go starting from quarter notes into 8th notes, into 8th note triplets, finally into 16th notes. Okay, now we're going to go the other way, so we're going to start at 16th notes and go down to quarter notes. Awesome, so that's all of the variations we can do with the rhythm, and we've applied it to the guitar using the G major scale. There's so much work you can do just using this. Well, thank you so much for checking out this tutorial. I hope that I covered some material that you'll find interesting in your own practice. I find this a really useful technique for practicing things like scale shapes, but it's also really cool for using drum patterns. You can think of the different way of varying the division, so take a G chord, 2, 3, 4, just like that, or we can even put them together, so we could have 1 and 2 and 3 and... So just experiment with this, have different... See if you can find some different ideas, see if you can find some different sounds, and I hope you found this useful. Now I just want to say a huge thank you from myself, I'm Gabriel, and a huge thank you from the NYC Guitar School. You can check out all the links will be in the description below. You can come check out my profile, read a bit about my background, you can read a bit more about the school on the website, and hopefully you'll click like and click subscribe to see more content like this, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.